All right. Conversations are encouraging. We can start finding our way back to the seats. Please pick those numbers, pick those business cards, and even for the online audiences, feel free to interact on that platform even as we start the event officially in a moment. Pick those business cards, pick those contacts. We can start finding our way back to the seats. Please pick those numbers, pick those business cards, and even for the online audiences, feel free to interact on that platform even as we start the event officially in a moment. Pick those business cards, pick those contacts. We can start finding our way back to the seats. Please pick those numbers, pick those business cards, and even for the online audiences, feel free to interact on that platform even as we start the event officially in a moment. Pick those business cards, pick those contacts. We can start finding our way back to the seats. Please pick those numbers, pick those business cards, and even for the online audiences, feel free to interact on that platform even as we start the event officially in a moment. Pick those numbers, connect on LinkedIn, pick those business cards, pick those contacts. For our online audiences, paste the link to your LinkedIn page. Please pick those numbers on the chat function. Pick those business cards, the link to your LinkedIn page. And even for the online audiences, feel free to interact on that platform even as we start the event officially as possible. So in a moment. Pick those numbers, connect on LinkedIn, pick those business to your LinkedIn, pick those contacts. For our online audiences, paste the link to your LinkedIn page. Please pick those numbers. Today is the commemoration ahead of Sunday for the International Women's Day. How does it sound? It's an interesting day to commemorate. I was just reading online how this day started in 1908 before it was finally fully gazetted by the UN in 1975. That the ACF, we've taken the theme, Give to Gain, and we'll have different showcases for what it means for Give to Gain. We have investors and businesses that we support. We have Jamila joining us from Tema General Traders. We have Ave Maria, who does marketing and distribution at Sayari Safi UPE Energy. But we also have Joy Ladu, a managing director for Ubuntu Company, who will also be speaking to us what has it meant for them to experience the support from ACF, especially in our flagship program on investing in women. We also have a panel lined up for us. You can see the speakers already here. We have Lukania Makunda already in the building. Is Lukania in the building, by the way? I have a feeling she's around. Yeah, she's right there. Thank you so much, Lukania from FSD Kenya. Fred Kio from ACF is in the building as well. He's the Associate Director for Agribusiness Programs, not only in Kenya, but across the different countries that we're operating in. We have a program in South Sudan. We have a program in Sudan. We have a program in Tanzania, SIP. We have a program in Benin, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, in Kano as well. So we have a very interesting panel. And finally, Michelle Mwambela. Now, a name with an M from where I come from can be a difficulty, but please forgive me if I don't pronounce it right. But thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us today. And then finally, we have a call to action. And as we proceed on, I also want to invite us to enjoy a cup of tea or coffee and a few bitings, even as we get to start the session today. All right, and just before our first speaker comes, I think it would be nice to, actually noted I've not introduced myself. My name is Francis Washira. I work with the ACF as a communications manager. I think it will be interesting to start hearing testimonials from our investees. What has it meant for them? And I would wish to start with Ave Maria. Ave Maria, we were having a chat right now. Victoria is in an interview, so she'll be joining us. So Ave Maria, it will be interesting to hear about Sayari Safi. Please come on board and talk to us about your business and what it has meant for you as a marketing and distributions manager. Give a hand to Ave Maria Kegosi as she takes the floor.
Thank you, Francis. My name is Ave Maria, as I have been introduced. I'm the distribution manager at Sayari Safi, trading name of Apenergy in Tanzania. So at Apenergy, we design, manufacture, and distribute clean cooking solutions to the communities that we are definitely sure that they really need these solutions. So as we all know, most of our African communities, they use these unclean cooking solutions. They are using wood, charcoal, the stoves which are not efficient. And most of the cookings are done with women, as we are all aware. So this means that the women are the most affected people when it comes to all the negative outcomes of unclean cooking and solutions. One being the smoke exposure, and then there is the fuel costs, and then like just the burden of time. They use a lot of time when it comes to cooking. So at Apenergy, we thought this is the problem, and we came up with these designs of our clean cooking solutions. We have our ICS stove. It's quite heavy. I couldn't come with it, so bear with me. It's about 12 kg the weight of the stove. So our stove is designed to reduce the amount of charcoal that can be used in the cooking sessions. It cuts up to 50% of the fuel use. And our distributions, we are intentional when it comes to our distributions. We use this women saving groups. I don't know if in Kenya you have that. The women come together and have these groups where they save their money every month, maybe every week. And these spaces are very safe for them to have communications and just educate each other in different things. So we also use that as a channel of distribution, knowing that we can sit with these women and have a discussion and on the benefits of clean cooking solutions. And we have seen evidence that these women become pioneers and ambassadors when it comes to their communities. They share their experiences with their communities, which helps for these communities to have that transition to better and cleaner cooking solutions. So since 2022, we have been operating in Tanzania since 2022. We have been able to distribute or reach more than 300,000 households. And within the EACF grant, we're able to reach at least, I can say, 1/5 of the distribution. That is around 55,000 households were reached within this grant. So we have seen a bigger impact, and we hope that we'll do more in the coming years. There are with all that impact that has already been done within the program, but also as Sayari Safi or Up Energy, as a company, we still need support to reach these communities, which they really need these solutions. And we have a facility in Dar es Salaam. So we operate in 2 big cities, that is Dar es Salaam and Dodoma. And we have our in-house production unit in Dar es Salaam, but it becomes a burden for us to distribute. As we know, Tanzania is quite large. It becomes difficult to transport these our stoves to regions which are a bit on the outskirts of the cities. So we are hoping in the near future we'll be able to get support and also have maybe an additional unit where we'll be able to produce this unit. I mean, our stores near these regions. Yeah. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here and be part of this transformative impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ave Maria. We was chatting with her in Swahili, and I can tell you 90 or 95% of the time I was trying to translate from, I have a few levels of translation from my mother tongue first, then to English, and then to Swahili. Thank you so much, Ave Maria, and we hope to hear more from you. All right, so we want now to get some remarks and to be, of course, invited officially by the host for this event, and that is the AECF. And to that effect, I'll be inviting our team leader and a Chief Executive Officer, CEO, Victoria Sabula, who will give her opening remarks. And then we will transition on to another segment of getting to hear much more from the investees. So a hand to our trailblazer and champion for investing in women, Victoria. Welcome.
I usually say that God created different people, that Francis, and then there is me. So really good to see you guys, and what a room full of women. I like this because it is not often that you actually walk into rooms and you find that the majority are women. So we should celebrate every time that we see that we are a majority in the room. Yes. Hi. So today is the day that we, get together every year. That is the 8th of March. Today is not the 8th of March, but it is a reason that we are gathering here. And it's really interesting that I read a post on LinkedIn just last week, and someone was saying, but do we just do it for the sake of it? Or is it that, it comes around and we need to do something about it? Or does it truly trigger something in us, an action, and that over the next period we do something different, and by the time the next year comes, we actually say, for the reason of the last year's conversations, the challenge that we gave ourselves, a woman somewhere is better. Today I really want to talk of Matilda. Matilda is an entrepreneur and is one of our investees all the way in the shores of Lake Victoria. I have met her a few times now because she's no longer just, held back in Bondo. She actually gets to go into international conferences to share about entrepreneurship and what it means, work to locally rooted. Okay, it's really choppy. Where do I stand? Up. Oh, okay, great. That works. So we go back to Matilda. And several years ago, Matilda witnessed something that deeply disturbed her. In the fishing communities around the lake, women traders faced harsh realities with declining fish stocks and unequal power structures in the sector. We know when we hear unequal power structures, in fact, every woman here knows what that looks like on an everyday basis, right? Women traders faced harsh realities. And something really bothers me often, which is hearing that they needed to sell their bodies, sex for fish, to access fish to sell and feed their families. Matilda saw this firsthand, and she decided to do something about it. She left her full-time job as an accountant, mobilized 6 women, and together they began fish cage farming on Lake Victoria. Their idea was simple but transformational: create a path for women to participate in the fisheries value chain on their own terms, grounded in community power and their lived experience. But as so many women entrepreneurs know, vision alone is never enough. They struggled to access quality fish feed, fingerlings, and reliable markets. Production stalled, costs rose. And when Matilda sought financing, she was asked for collateral she did not have, a barrier that continues to lock out countless women across Africa. But still, she persisted. Instead of giving up, Matilda tackled the challenge at its roots. She expanded beyond fish farming into producing fish feed and fingerlings, building what is now Great Lakes Fish Feeds, a vertically integrated aquaculture enterprise supplying farmers across Siaya and neighboring counties. When AECF partnered with her through the Investing in Women in Blue Economy program, our purpose was not to reshape her vision. It was to amplify it, to remove the barrier standing between her and the possibilities she could create for herself and her community. With improved equipment now, modern hatchery systems, and technical support offered through our advisory services unit, her business shifted from manual processes to efficient, high-quality production. Today, her enterprise works with, hear this, 1,200 women fish farmers across nearly 60 women's groups, strengthening livelihoods and fueling the local blue economy. But the real significance of Matilda's journey goes beyond one enterprise. Her story teaches us 3 great lessons. One is that when we invest in women-centered solutions that are rooted in community realities, the gains are exponential. Matilda is working legitimately within a community that knows she is their person. They are able to look at that enterprise and they are able to see that even they can be something because Matilda has become something for herself and for them. Matilda's enterprise didn't just grow, it multiplied opportunities for women whose experiences had shaped the solution from the start. Sex for fish, unacceptable. Fish, a great opportunity to increase income. So what do? We learn about the barriers, learn about the norms. We challenge them through providing finance, through building the capacity of these women to better understand their rights, but also really the opportunity that is in business, because the moment you are economically able, you're able to stand up for yourself, right? The second thing really that Matilda helps us to learn is the importance of catalytic capital. Oftentimes, we are told, "Oh, why do you give grants to women?" And we say, what is the option that is available? The first thing, when they go to a bank, they are asked for an asset that they don't have, because somehow the men decided that women were not deserving of property because they were going to be married. And when they get married, where they go, the men there are the ones who have the control over that property. So you lose at home and you lose where you go to get married. Yeah? So we need to provide that kind of capital that is flexible, that's patient and accessible, so that we move the women businesses from pure survival to actually thriving businesses. And we get to empower the women to be able to contribute to the community as they should. Third is that technical support is important. Capital alone is never enough. Matilda benefited from advisory support, networks, and skills that helped her to build a resilient, competitive business. Today, when you go and meet Matilda, she will tell you of a commercial loan that she actually is servicing from a commercial bank. Now, that is what resilience looks like, right? Knowing that also the catalytic funding has played a role in de-risking for investments to come into this business. And hereafter, it is not going to be AECF that is going to sustain the business. It is going to be commercial capital. But I think one of the really great things that for us at AECF, Matilda's journey has revealed is that women don't need rescuing. Women in business really don't need rescuing. They just need that we acknowledge the amazing gifts that they have, the innovation, the creativity, the willingness to build business. And what they need is a support to be able to unlock the potential that they have. So they need investments that recognize their potential, honor their context, and unlock the innovations they are already leading. When we speak to Matilda in Lake Victoria, and we speak to another entrepreneur in Burkina Faso, we speak finance, we speak technical advisory, we speak investments facilitation, but we also speak how different is Ouagadougou and the Burkinabes and how they access services. And then we say, how different is it in Siaya and Homa Bay and Kisumu and the rest of Kenya? Let me underscore this, that we have gained more by investing in Matilda than she has gained from us. Her leadership has created employment, strengthened value chains, and expanded opportunities for thousands of women. Her success reminds us that when we give in ways that shift power, amplify agency, and support community-rooted solutions, the returns are transformative. So as we reflect on this year's International Women's Day theme, Give to Gain, we must ask ourselves, what are we willing to give? Are we willing to give capital that truly reaches women entrepreneurs and the people that they serve? Are we willing to give our influence to reshape markets so they work with, not against, women? Are we willing to give sustained investments into women-centered models that are grounded in the strength, creativity, and resilience of communities? Do we challenge our investments processes and our systems so intentionally, so aggressively, so that the outcome of it is truly strong business led by women? When we do this, the gains are undeniable. Stronger businesses, more resilient households. You know, every time I talk about resilient households and I say nothing gives us joy at the AECF than knowing that a business has worked with a small farm household, and all of a sudden there is a cow that actually produces 4 extra liters of milk, and then there is chicken that lay an average of 15 eggs per month, and they can be sold in a few months at an equivalent of $6 to $10, and that household has an extra $100 a month. It changes their lives completely. They are able to take their children to school, and they are able to pay SHA. Right? So when they go to hospital, they are not sent away. They are able to access medical services. That is the power of market-based approaches, the power of investing in a way that actually transform their communities. So we don't do one time. We don't walk in, launch projects, and then walk out. We go in there, we find entrepreneurs that are willing to be able to transform the opportunity that is in the value chains closer to them, and make the best of it to increase their revenue, and thereafter increase the incomes of the households that benefit from the businesses. I look forward every other day to our communities being those that women are not only participants, but leaders of transformation, because Matilda and another so many women, right now 25+% of our portfolio is actually women-led portfolio, and meaning these are proper enterprises that we have invested. But most importantly, and Agnes will correct me, I think we are at 52% of our total impact going to women when it comes to jobs and it comes to market linkages and whatever economic opportunity has been extended. Matilda's story is proof that when we invest in women and trust these solutions they design from their lived experience, we unlock impact that extends far beyond any single enterprise. We gain so much when we invest in women. Thank you.
I told you trailblazer. When she started talking about productive assets, I could see some fire in the room. So please just stick on that point. Don't go any further. Just talk about it. So it's very interesting. Thank you so much, Victoria, champion for investing in women. I want to call another trailblazer and a champion. Her levels of translation are actually minimal. She just thinks in English and speaks in English. A hand for Agnes McKenna, who is our manager for gender.
Thank you, Francis. I have both the pleasure and the challenge of going after Victoria, but I want to start by really thanking everyone who's shown up today, not just for ACF, but for the women and for all of the other women that we support. My name is Agnes McKenna. I'm the manager for gender at ACF, and for this part of the discussion, we're going to have an enterprise showcase. Victoria has just built the foundation, some of the women entrepreneurs and the gender impacts that ACF seeks to create. And we're hoping to hear from some of those women entrepreneurs today. As you know, ACF invests in agribusiness and renewable energy. We integrate a strong lens in gender, climate, and fragility. And so I'll start with our energy sector. Women are the primary users and managers of energy within households. However, they're disproportionately affected by energy poverty. And in addition, when we think about women within the sector, we only think of them as end consumers and customers. But what if we change that narrative and saw women creating, women actually building businesses, designing the products that they end up being the end users of, and integrating other women within those value chains and supply chains? And so I want to spotlight our Tanzania Clean Cooking Project, which was done in partnership with the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. We've invested in 13 entrepreneurs, 4 of which are women-owned and women-led businesses. And I was looking for stats so that I could do some bit of comparative analysis on what that truly means, because you hear 13 and 4, and you think, oh, why not 5, why not 6? But then I found out that in Tanzania, only 16% of the entire startup ecosystem has been founded by women-owned or women-led businesses. And so that's the dearth of entrepreneurship, especially gender-focused entrepreneurship, that we are trying to bridge. And so I would like to welcome some of our entrepreneurs from Tanzania, working within the Tanzania Clean Cooking Project. We'll start with Jamila Mangi. Welcome, Jamila.
Ooh, what a morning. Good morning, everyone. So, first of all, I'm very impressed with the story of Matilda from Victoria. It's very touching. That brings me about to tell a story from Tanzania before telling you who I am, where do I come from, what are we doing, and what brought us here. So, little meet Mama Fatma. The 73-year-old woman lives in Kiteto, Tanzania. She's living in the most remote area in Tanzania. All her life, she has been using firewood as her cooking source. She has been going a mile away to fetch for firewood. Unfortunately, she became a widow at a very young age. She didn't have children, so she didn't have anyone to depend on. She lived all her life using firewood as her source of cooking without knowing the impact it will have in her healthy and social life. It's actually damaged her health. It damaged her eyes. Her eyes became so red that the community started suspecting that she's a witch. She got isolated. She could no longer participate in social activities. She became sad. She will lock herself inside because she's fearing if she go outside, something bad will happen to her. We, Tema General Traders Limited, a female-led company, distributors of LPG cylinders. With the help of ACF funds that we got, we initiated the distribution of LPG in her village. So we started by giving education and raising awareness. While doing that, we came across her story. We came across her neighbors, and they told us, no, that woman is of no good. That woman is a witch. If you guys are here, make sure you don't go near her house. Make sure you don't speak to her. But we said, no, we'll pay her a visit. We paid her a visit. We talked to her. Her story touched us. We gifted her a free 6 kg cylinder. We continue spreading awareness. The impact wasn't big at first, but we paid a visit again, and we started seeing changes from Mama Fatma. The eyes were clearing up, but her 6 kg cylinder was empty by the time we arrived. So we gave her a refill cylinder. Now we gave the more education and more awareness to the community that the red eyes that she's having, the coughing that she's having, she could even no longer recognize herself because of what the smoke has done for her for all her years of using firewood. Slowly the community started to accept, and the word spread. The community started agreeing and using the LPG as the new cooking solution. The news spread even to the nearest villages. So we successfully, with a proven model of creating local distributors, we opened one distributor who is now distributing LPG cylinders to that area. In that region, we can attest that up to 7% of the villagers are now using LPG, and we are the main distributors of that LPG product. Mama Fatma is just one of many women that are facing these challenges, that are facing these problems in their society, in their community, just because of lack of awareness of what dirty cooking solution can do to the community, of what using firewood and charcoal can do to your healthy. The children are coughing because of the smoke. The women are given names, are being given labels because of using dirty cooking solution. So as Tema General Traders Limited, we have reached so many remote areas. With the help that we got the funds from ACF, we were able to reach up to 25,000 women. We have engaged with women groups. My fellow investee talked about that. I don't know if here in Kenya you guys have that. In Tanzania we call them Vikoba. So we have managed to reach almost over 300 Vikoba groups, women groups. We have touched almost 25,000 households. And this to us, it's a success. Still have a long way to go. Still we have a lot of lives to touch and change. And so we call upon investors, we call upon partners, so we can create more awareness. We can get technical assistance and funds so we can reach more and more villages. We can reach more and more Mama Fatmas. We can rescue more and more Kiteto villagers from their norms and beliefs of every red-eyed woman is a witch, which is not. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jamila. I found that so inspiring when she first shared the story, and especially when you think about gender norms and just to the effect that they have on women, how they start as a perception, becomes a belief, and then it becomes this barrier that really stifles or limits a woman from growing, from being welcomed in her community, from economic participation, from thriving. And it's a really good case study of how you can be able to overcome those social norms, those harmful social norms, through some of the investments that we're making and intentionality as well. So thank you. I want to also make this session engaging, and I'm looking around the room. There are a lot of us involved in the energy sector. Do we have any thoughts? Does anything resonate from what Jamila has said? Some reports were launched at Sankalp on energy, and looking at you, Karnika. But we have a lot of women from the Association of Women in Energy and Extractives in Kenya. Any thoughts before I move forward, or questions? Okay, I hope we'll continue to engage as we continue to the other sectors. Now I'm entering agriculture. 62% of women in Africa are involved in farming. They contribute up to 40% of the labor force. They, however, own less than 15% of agricultural land. They have limited contribution and earnings from agribusiness. In South Sudan, our Investing in Women program, in partnership with the Global Affairs Canada, is increasing women's socioeconomic participation within key agricultural value chains in the country. And within a fragile context, gender inclusion and business growth are both complex, but high potential areas for impact and income. And so to share more about this program and the impact that we've been able to have and the stories from the women in South Sudan, I'm going to welcome Joy Ladu. Joy, welcome.
Thank you, Agnes. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, and in the spirit of the International Women's Day, I want to go ahead and wish you all Happy International Women's Day. It is a privilege to stand here and really amplify the voices of the South Sudanese women. I come from a country where women are extremely resilient. We come from a generation of South Sudanese women who have refused to settle. South Sudanese women who have decided, who dream big, who have visions and dreams even bigger than the circumstances that are surrounding us. So my name is Joy, as Agnes has introduced. I am the founder and the CEO of Ubuntu Company Limited. It is a women-owned agribusiness in South Sudan that is dealing in the production of flour and also the manufacturing of shea butter. South Sudan is extremely food insecure. We are having over 80% of the population food insecure. Malnutrition is also on a very high rate. We have 2.5 million children who are extremely malnourished. And so Ubuntu decided to bridge some of these gaps in terms of food shortage in South Sudan. And then also, hello? And then also delve into the value chain of shea butter because it offers additional income for women. So what we do is that we are working with 100% women as a women-owned company. We are working with rural women farmers who are in the sorghum value chain and also shea nut collectors within the central and the eastern equatorial region of South Sudan. And what we do with these women is that we are able to provide them with inputs. We are able to provide them with training, and then at the end of the season, we are able to provide them with market linkage. As Agnes mentioned, the reason why we decided to be very intentional with this is that the numbers do not lie. 60% of the women in the agricultural value chain, they make the majority, and yet they do not have access to the basic necessities. They are not able to access land, they are not able to access credit. Even us as Ubuntu, we are not able to access credit. You know, they are not able to access market for their output. And so that is the intentionality that we came in. So we work with this, currently we are working with over 4,000 women in these two value chains. We are working with over 4,000 women in these two value chains. And we have seen tremendous impact through the model that we have taken by actually giving them inputs, giving them training in smart agronomic practices, and then also post-harvest management. And then at the end of the season, we are able to buy from them to give them ready market. The impact that we have seen is not only in regards to income. We have seen that when these women have ready access to market, they're able to get a livelihood, they're able to get income. For the shea nut collectors, there's usually only one season in a year. And this one season coincides with the period of the year in South Sudan where hunger is at its peak. And so by offering these women an avenue whereby they can go and collect the shea nuts, they are able to get income outside of the normal farming period. And then also during the time when during the harvest season for the sorghum, then we are able to buy from them. So these women, from the income that they get, they have been able to take their children to school. They've been able to contribute to their families. And then another impact that we have seen really is the reduction of gender-based violence. South Sudan has one of the highest cases of gender-based violence. When women are empowered with an income, they are able to productively contribute in their families. And so it has significantly reduced GBV and then also intimate partner violence. Because with an income, they are able to sit equally on the table with their partners or with their male counterparts to discuss matters that actually affect their lives. So this might sound as a small thing, but gender-based violence is really a big issue in South Sudan, and women, with the income that they get, they're able to make decisions for their lives, they're able to make decisions for their children, and also they are able to have a freedom to walk away from abusive relationships that could otherwise actually terminate their lives. We've also seen high level of productivity among our women groups. And by this, initially, before the project started, most of these women were cultivating 1 acre or 2 acres. But through the catalytic funding that we got from AECF, these women now are able to cultivate a lot more acreages because they work as a group. And as a team, they are able to to actually go to the local community and together lobby for lease for land, because we all understand the challenges of land in Africa and women accessing land. But as a group, they can be able to go to the local community leaders. They are able to lease land. They are also able, as a group, to even buy land. And as that, with the income that they're getting, they're expanding the land. They're able to produce a lot more. And a very interesting impact that we saw last year is that 2 of the women groups were able to buy walking tractors to be able to improve their productivity. And these walking tractors are now servicing the entire community. And the people that are actually now operating these walking tractors are youth that are otherwise idle and unemployed. And in South Sudan, you guys know there's a lot of tensions that come here and there. There's a lot of war that come. It is because majority of the youth are unemployed. Majority of the youth are just idle. And so when these women groups actually take that initiative to give something to this youth, to be able to make a good use of their lives, then now youth have something to lose, because when they are recruited easily to go to war, it's usually because they don't have anything to lose. They're just idle. And so women are really going above and beyond. They're trying to resolve some of the challenges that even our government cannot be able to resolve. At a company level, the funding that we have gotten has really improved us as Ubuntu. We have grown. We have been able to get machinery that has improved our efficiency and our production. Right now, initially our market was mainly in South Sudan. We have been able to expand to here in Kenya. And as we continue to expand and open more markets, we believe that we'll be able to work with these women. We expand the markets, and the women also continue to benefit from that. For me also, as a woman in business, the catalytic funding that we got has changed me, not only in regards to leadership, because initially before the ACF came, I want to talk a little bit about the challenges that we face in South Sudan in regards to accessing financing. Before the ACF came, I had worked for almost a whole year to most of the financial institutions in Juba trying to look for financing. And one thing kept on coming. Number one, Joy, you guys are still too small. You do not have the systems that can take you to absorb the typical financing that the banks offer. Number two, they told us that our model is not tested. Our model of working with rural women farmers has not been tested, and so it might not be viable. And so there were just a lot of excuses. But then ACF came, Global Affairs Canada came. They sat with us. They listened to us. They heard us. They saw us. They went beyond the typical requirements that usually the typical financial institutions would look at, otherwise would have been cut out. They looked at us and saw that a model that works with rural women farmers surely can be sustainable, surely can be able to give impact, surely can be able to give sustainability. And so today we have sincerely benefited. We are very happy with the trajectory that Ubuntu has come. We are very happy with the trajectory that the women that we serve have gotten. And as we move forward, we are asking other donors and other institutions to go beyond just the normal requirement, de-risk financing for women, believe in women, because as Madam Victoria said, when you invest in a woman, you truly are investing in a long-term impact in our society. Thank you.
Joy, thank you so much. Joy brings up some really interesting points. Does anyone know what closing the gender gap will contribute to the African GDP by 2025? If we close the gender gap within the agricultural sector, how much would we be able to inject to Africa's economy? Oh, wow, okay. We have a statistician here.
I don't have the answer, but I think for me, listening to the speakers who are great, I would like to hear more about the women doing value addition to what they're producing. And that would add to the African GDP, what women will do in that sector versus them just producing the raw materials and getting a market.
Thank you so much for that. We'd be happy to share some of our research and stories from some of our investees in the Investing in Women program in South Sudan. In the value chains that they're working, especially in shea butter, they've been able to produce, package, and even sell that shea butter to different markets, soybeans as well, honey as well. And so I'm very happy to share some of those resources and many other from the room to continue to build on that evidence.
Is a processor. So she gets to integrate backward to the women farmers, get to improve the production levels and the quality and the quantities. And she then gets to connect these women to a market because she is processing within South Sudan. And part of the funding that went actually was to improve the processing capacity for her.
No problem that they're finding a market and they're finding a place to take their raw material. There's a processing unit. My interest in the way we will grow products in Africa and moving away from just the primary suppliers is, do they own the value chain, the upstream, right? They own downstream. Yeah. We are empowering them downstream, but how far are we going upstream? And that's the market I am very concerned about, because I believe that's what's going to make a big change to these women's lives.
Absolutely. And I think that's a conversation that we have quite a lot within our agri. There will always be the people who will actually have to produce. We just need to make sure that it is just not moving from farm out. It is that what does local aggregation and local processing look like, and how are we building that particular capacity? Because you cannot value add as the 1,000 of you, but how do we move many of you to be able to be aggregators, and then have some of you to be mini processors and have larger processors? Like, it's an entire universe, but that's a whole conversation that I'm sure Fred here, as our ag expert, is very happy to have with you.
Yeah, and maybe we'll also come up in our panel discussion a bit later when we talk about incentivizing the agribusiness industry. Thank you for that contribution. I love the engagement. Coming back to my number. We've steered away from my number. Yes, Lucania?
I'm going to guess, yeah? But I know for businesses, micro and small businesses, it's going to be $42 billion US dollars. So that percentage for ag businesses could be maybe 60% of that.
Slightly close. If we close the gender financing gap within the agricultural sector, we could bring in 2.5 trillion to the African continent's GDP by 2025. So if that's not a call to action, Well, we've passed the mark. I don't know if we've managed to close the gap and eject that money. But that was the start with 2025, and clearly I'm still in last year. But I'm curious what the stats are for 2030 and 2050, if anyone has come across that. But yeah, I think the more that the years continue to pass, the bigger the gender gap widens. And the farther the mark goes, and the more we get to be able to call the potential contribution if we close that gap. Now, finally, I am now looking at Kakuma, the Kakuma Kalobe Challenge Fund. In partnership with the IFC, the program aims to enable better economic integration and self-reliance of displaced populations and their host community. And today, we're very privileged to have one of our entrepreneurs from Kakuma here to share their story briefly on how they were able to start their business within this fragile context, a thriving business, and lift other women within Kakuma. Nancy Karambu, welcome.
Asante sana. Good morning, everybody. My name's Nancy Karambu Ryungu from Kakuma, Turkana County. So I'm humbled this morning to be here. I think those who have been in Kakuma can testify that from Kakuma to Nairobi is just a change of a chapter. So thank you so much, AECF, for this chance. I don't take it for granted. I'm a testimony of a woman from nothing to something, okay? So there is no chance that women cannot grow. I've come from very far. I'm a nurse by profession, but in business. So I started a tailoring business in 1998. And that time in Kakuma, there were no businesses in tailoring and dressmaking. So I started mine in a corridor with one fundi and one machine and a charcoal iron box. You can imagine what that means. But gradually have grown to a shop with 5 tailors, started students, started training women, adolescent women, because in Turkana, early pregnancy is the norm. Not because they want, but because of the culture. So I started empowering young women, and gradually I started receiving students from NGOs in Kakuma. For those who don't know, Kakuma, we have so many refugees from so many countries. So most of the NGOs believed in me, and they started bringing students, and mainly women. Men were very few. You know, men don't believe in tailoring and dressmaking. But I thank God, I've trained over 400 women informally. Before AECF came in, I've trained students from the Danish Refugee Council, Swiss Contact, the list is endless. Then came the government of Kenya. They also believed in what I was doing, because from the look of things, there is great need for this. Women are really like the South Sudanese. Women there, including the refugees, are really low economically. So any chance you have to bring up a woman, they are really aggressive at it. So the government brought in students through the KEOP program I trained so many of them again. And then now comes the story of AECF, KKCF funding. I had 2 shops by then, and in these shops is when where I was doing the trainings. I didn't have a training institution. So we could extend with iron sheets, any possibility of getting space. So we gradually upgraded. Then KKCF came in and found the potential in me. They believed in me and gave me their first grant, which was 1.5 million. To be honest, I didn't believe in free things. I thought it was a scam. But from my record, I did my best. Most of the money I put in infrastructure and buying, like in Kakuma, we didn't have branding, and we didn't have modern machines. Like button holes, we used to use our hands. Buttoning, we use our hands. So you can imagine the tedious work. And those days I used to do production of school uniforms, being the only woman entrepreneur who believed in fashion. Yeah, so from that I got my first modern machines, and I was able to kind of jump-start my business. You know, previously I used to like do the uniforms in Kakuma, bring them in to Nairobi for buttoning and buttonholing and branding. You can imagine. So they cut all my profit. But from then, I started doing it myself. My students are the ones who do the production. So when I'm doing uniforms, I have women and men doing the work for me, and many, many of them, in fact. Like in a shift, I can have like 80 women, 20 men. Women are very many. Men are few. So like anytime I'm doing production, it cut on my cost. Now, the story continues. After that, I did my best, and I'm sure Madam CEO, you should visit Kakuma soon to see what we've done. I got the second grant, and this time I wanted to do it bigger. I started a training institution. KKCF was to fund me for a production unit, an office, and like 1 classroom to be doing my teaching. But then I wanted to dream big. I decided to go all the way and start a training institution, which is now operational, thanks to the trust they have in me as a woman. When I stand before you, this is what we do. This is done in Kakuma. So I have students, especially South Sudanese. They really love fashion. So most of my clients are refugees and the host community, and to be honest, it's such an honor, it's such a challenge. And I thank you guys that you believed in me. My institution, I think, is the best in Kakuma, a modern one. I mean, even me, when I look at it, I can't imagine it's me, but it's the truth. So at the moment, I have 220 students. Yesterday, I graduated my first 138 students. And in all this, I have electrical wireman, I have solar refrigeration, I have fashion and design, hospitality, and creative industry. I'm thinking of going into Not thinking, I'm already doing it, but it's out of this. I'm doing agriculture, but I'll meet with the guy who is there. I want to go again and have women there. I have 3 CBOs working with the agriculture sector, but I'm not very good at it. I need to be nipigwe jeki. So thank you so much. I think out of this, I've employed so many women. And one of my biggest challenge, it is not how many I've employed. It is how many more can I employ? How many more can I empower? You know, like sometimes we take life for granted. You can imagine in a class, out of 40, 10 come with their babies on their backs. Uko kwa mashini, and the baby is at your back. Reason being, you cannot afford a nanny. Even in that class, you cannot afford a packet of milk for the baby. In the same class, you cannot afford a pad for yourself. You cannot afford a meal for yourself. So unless you get sponsorship for the host and the refugee community, it is terrible. It is draining. As the owner of the training, I'm like, God, who can help us get more of these women empowered and at least uplift the burden? Let us have like a class, a safe space for children that a mother wants to come and learn, then they have somewhere to keep their baby. They have somewhere to get a packet of milk. So today I'm here not because I'm a woman, I'm here as an ambassador who wants to grow and grow more women. So AECF, please don't close down the program. Please come and uplift, even if it is not everybody, come identify. You've just done perfect. So when we think you're just doing it right, we are like, oh my goodness, and the help is going. Many people need you there. Okay? So let's embrace each other. Let's grow as women. Let's empower each other. I'm happy today. I've met very enthusiastic women. Today I want to know everybody here. I'll be visiting Tanzania and everywhere to see what is happening. Thank you for taking your time, and I'm humbled today.
Thank you, Nancy. Truly, what a privilege it is to have you entrepreneurs here with us today. Can we please have another round of applause? To have sacrificed your time, left your businesses, all of the busy operations you're doing, trailblazing stuff, to be here with us today to commemorate this day. We really celebrate you, and we thank you for being part of the ACF story. 1 in 4 women in Africa starts a business. And something that comes off so much is that women are not aspirational, or women don't have the desire to grow. Women don't want to be big. They just want to remain small. They're scared. They're risk averse. But then we're hearing a very different narrative from our women entrepreneurs, right? And as we continue to hear these narratives, we're hearing some of those gaps that keep them small, that keep them in the downstream of the supply chain that we're talking about. And so it's important to really think about the role of catalytic capital and intentional gender lens investing, and even non-financial support that can be provided to women to meet their aspirations, because they do have these aspirations. It's for us to meet them where their aspirations are and continue to grow them. And so thank you again for sharing the stories. Thank you to the audience for engaging. I will now hand over to Susan, who will take us to the next part of this event. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Agnes, and thank you to the women entrepreneurs that have really gone ahead build their resilience and broken barriers. So a big hand to you. So we'll get to hear from my panel this morning. And Agnes has really done well in terms of the numbers. And just looking at the stats for Africa, she's talked about one of 4 businesses are started by women. And 63% of those women remain unbanked. They bootstrap their businesses from savings. The stats show only 8% are financially included, like in form of financing. I do have one of my former colleagues here, and I can't help but give this story about how a woman entrepreneur once told us that the banks, the facilities, they put white tiles, so they feel like they're coming in and making them dirty, so they're not included. You know, it has so much to do with how it looks as I try to get in. But those are the statistics, and therefore, we have a 42 billion gender financing gap for Africa. They, of course, face other challenges, whether it comes to technical skills, access to networks, markets to promote their growth. And we've also talked about the harmful gender barriers that exist, whether it's social or cultural, and I think we've seen them come through this morning. And therefore, the stories of Jamila, the story of Nancy, the story of Joy, and the one of Matilda that was given by our CEO are actually true stories to show what can happen when we intentionally give to women entrepreneurs. And therefore, my panel this morning is looking at transforming how finance works for the African entrepreneur. So we'll consider acts of giving, whether it's knowledge, capital, networks, visibility, and I believe today we've provided visibility to the women entrepreneurs that we are working with at AECF, and how that can bring lasting gains, not just for the women entrepreneur, but for the communities that they end up serving. So I'll ask my panel to come up as I call them up so that we can go into this conversation. So I'll start with Michelle Mwambela, the CEO of the Association for Women in Energy and Extractives in Kenya, and we'll get to hear more around that. Then I'll call our he for she in the panel, Fred Kio, our Associate Director for Agribusiness. He's implementing our largest portfolio in gender, which is about $50 million, supported by Global Affairs Canada. So he has some good insights to provide us. And then I'll call on Lukania Makunda, who's the Market Information Project Lead at Financial Sector Deepening. And she's also working on the Wi-Fi code. So we get to hear a lot more. So welcome to the panel. Yeah. So we'll go through a round of just questions that we've curated, but also as an audience, and I do appreciate the online audience as well, please put in your questions through the chat, and we'll be able to pick them up. And even for you as an audience, should you have any questions, please write them down, and then we'll get to address them as we go along. The good thing about the conversation today is we have quite a bit of a really mixed audience. Some of you are funders in the ecosystem. Some of you are in financial institutions. Some of you have networks that you're creating. So we really appreciate your perspectives in terms of what you can bring to this conversation this morning. All right, so I'll start with Michelle. And Michelle, for you really, as you come on, is to... As you come on, it's to really maybe talk a little about AWEC, which is the Association for Women in Energy and Extractives, and how creating that social network for those women has meant for them in terms of giving them that voice and network that they didn't have before. Over to you.
Yeah, now it's on. As you've heard, my name is Michelle Mwambela from AWEC. It's quite a mouthful, but yeah. And first of all, it's to acknowledge and to really appreciate the presence of the women doing amazing and tremendous work out here. As Victoria was speaking, I could really resonate with the community and the women, who play at the lowest levels and the challenges that they have, and yet they're the most resilient. Hearing about Jamila from Tanzania and Joy and Nancy from Sudan, this is amazing. And you get to realize that women's challenges and opportunities and their resilience knows no borders. Like the stories are very similar, and yet they conquer. They just need that hand to help them take a step, and they take off and they do amazing things for themselves, for their communities, and for each other. So with that, I'll just now talk about the network that we have. AWEC is a membership organization that looks to support women playing at different levels in the energy and extractives value chains. When I say extractives, I mean mining, oil, and gas. So whether you're a businesswoman, whether you're a professional woman, whether you're a community woman working or living within the communities where some of these projects take place, then we try and intervene at whatever level you're at. So when it comes to what is it that AWEC gives to create, or rather creates for women playing within this space. Number one is creating platforms, and more so relevant to this conversation, to access financing models that are suitable for them. Joy has told us about a story of what the mainstream financial institutions talk about. Or, your model hasn't been tested, so we don't know about its success, or at your level, you're not bankable, or you don't have an asset or collateral to be able to take up some of these finances. So then where do we meet you? To be able to get you to a place where AECF will come in and elevate your work, where a financial institution can now listen to you. What kind of models do you need at the level you're at, no matter how small you are, without collateral, without anything, to be able to scale up a little bit to start, and then they'll find you on your way, because your problems don't wait. Your children are not waiting. The problems within your communities are just becoming more. They're compounding, if nothing else. So then we try and create even community financing models that can really start to get these women going and to start positioning them for the larger funding that can allow them to grow to the level that we want them to be. Number two is mentorship. I don't know how many of you have noticed there's a young one amongst us. A very young one. So, and we have more young ones, a generation that is enthusiastic, that has a lot of energy, that is tech savvy, that is very innovative. How are we preparing these young women? Because there's no employment opportunities, guys. We're not all going to be employed. How many of us here are on our own businesses? How many have been out there for years trying to look for employment? And so how are we preparing this generation of young, resilient, very strong women who have good education? Unlike some of the communities we work with, these young ladies here have really gone to school and they have great credentials, but there are no jobs for them. So what is the space for them to become entrepreneurs and not to hit the barriers that we have hit in our journey when we were starting? So we create mentorship opportunities by providing platforms for mentorship linkages, for networking, for apprenticeship and shadowing those women who have gone ahead and are doing good things, for placement, among other things, so that they don't have to go the long route, and to suffer some of the barriers that we suffered. Then another thing, and this is more of a gain, Susan, partnerships. In our journey, we have gained a lot of partnerships from like-minded individuals and organizations that has helped us to really scale the work across the country. We now have a network of about 5,000 women. And it's because of people who have held our hands throughout the journey that we've walked and continue to work with us to grow that number. I think Nancy has said she needs more partners so that her school and the women who are coming can live with dignity and can be able to access technical skills. So partnerships is something we as a network have really gained, and in turn have also provided partnerships to other organizations. And then finally, policy and advocacy. A lot of the barriers that we face are also policy driven or created, not by default. Sometimes it's just, it's an oversight or it's whatever it is, where we find even those, like the energy sector, I think has agenda policy, but do they have targets that are measurable? Do they have indicators that we can track what has been the progress for women's empowerment, regardless of where they are playing at? How many of the women are employed? How are we making sure that some of the tariffs that we are putting in place are aware of the unique challenges that women face? Women who are trying to, in the agricultural sector, say, run a cold chain, whatever. How are we creating tariffs? Those who are doing small manufacturing of some of the technologies. So it's those kind of things that can help women get a leg up. It's those kind of policies that can allow for either government grants or other kind of grants for women-led businesses and enterprises and things like that. So we try and make sure that we cover as a number of things that will come together and propel women forward. Yeah, so maybe I'll stop there.
Thank you, Michelle. And maybe to just stay with you to understand, what have you seen as some of the benefits of creating that social network that you've talked about with the partnerships, with advocacy, that from the work that you're doing?
Okay. So this morning I caught up with Lucania and we talked about not knowing what everyone else is doing. So at AWEC we try and build a coalition and a movement of women, especially in the renewable energy space. There's so many subsectors within the energy space, but everyone is doing their own thing, and we are not speaking to each other, and we are not speaking together with one voice to push the women's agenda, regardless of the country we're in. And so by building a network of women, then we start knowing what the other person is doing. You could be standing across the street, and if you don't know the person you're looking for, then you don't know that it's them, and you're literally looking at each other, like he has done now. The benefits we've seen is that there's more collaboration between women once they know what the other one is doing. Because up until this, the call we had, I didn't know about what Wi-Fi code is doing. I might have known somewhere down the road, but it would have taken months for us to know, and yet there's so many women we work with that we could plug them into that program. So the value of networks is the exchange of knowledge, it's the exchange of information amongst ourselves, and then that builds on collaboration and moving forward. I'll speak more on the community side. I spoke about the financing of the lower level players. Now, we work in about 9 counties, and what we found is that because of their lack of bankability, we found that we needed to create, although these are systems that go on, they go under different names, but Village Savings and Loans Associations. I think Jamila might have spoke about Vikoba. It could be a similar model where women come together in groups, they contribute $1 or even less in a week. But the pool of this money then becomes something big that they're able to grow. So for instance, in the last year, these women have been able to borrow, I think in one of the counties, up to $130,000 in just a year, saving under $1 per week. So that has really created a system where they're able to contribute to each other and borrow from a system that has trust. They know each other, they have their own mechanism of enforcement in case of default and things like that. But beyond that, it has also created a social network amongst them, because what we use these groups for now, and they started simply as savings and loaning, but now they're able to get into social welfare, like the SHA, and they contribute towards that. They've been able to get agricultural extension officers to come and talk to them, because some of these women are in the mining sector. Not many of us know about the mining sector, but it's very capital intensive, a lot. And it's not predictable. You don't have a timeline in which you can do production and then you can go on for a year and still not hit anything that can give you enough money. So they need something, a diversification of their livelihoods to be able to still earn. So what we've also seen is that the groups form a guarantee for adoption of certain things like clean energy technologies. So clean cooking technologies, solar home systems, and things like that. Those VSLAs can uptake a good number of equipment and form a guarantee, and then these women can pay slowly towards those particular inputs. So that network provides a lot of things that would otherwise not be available to these women. And then maybe just to add on to that, beyond that, now linking our young people into this value chain. I also at the, at the communities, there are very many educated young people, but they have no opportunities. So now with the emergence of clean energy technologies being deployed within the communities, what's the opportunity to create an ecosystem where they are doing the repairs, they are doing the waste management, they're doing recycling. All these are skills that can be built, and then the youth can become entrepreneurs within this space of the value chain that now is an emerging area for them to participate within the energy space. So I think there's a lot we can talk about, but those are some of the things that I can highlight at the moment. Yeah.
That's really, really great. And you've talked about many things. You've talked about technical skills that they're also getting through that. And I know as women, we are all about community. And the more we are in an association, the more you feel the credibility, even in terms of what it is that you're doing and the affirmation. I'll move to Fred. Fred is at the heart of implementing more of our gender transformative programs. Maybe you can share a little about them and what you see have been the gains.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege to be amongst women. It's like, Victoria, you read my mind. When I sat there, I began counting the men in the room, and we are 8 in total. I don't know how many women are in the room, but it's a privilege, it's an honor to be amongst you, to have this conversation. Fred is my name, as Susan has said. I'm a champion of private sector investment within the agribusiness. And currently got an opportunity to partner work with the ACF to drive, I would say, one of the biggest programs in partnership with Global Affairs Canada. I can see Kagota in the room. And it's been an interesting project. Just from the design of it, targeting 100% business-owned led women. That in itself is big. And the ultimate goal is how do we see many women, especially in the rural context, becoming truly economically empowered. And I was just having a conversation with my colleagues in that desk, and the key thing is, as these women were talking, Joy, good to see you, it's just the ripple effect that you see when you invest in a private sector. And I guess that is the biggest conversation for today. So what have we seen so far? I think the first thing I will start, and all the speakers have alluded to it, it's just the capacity women have gotten by having access to something simple, productive assets. And they could start with land. And it's not about ownership. It's about having access to that land that you can use to create a gainful outcome out of it. And we've moved ahead. I like the question that was coming from the lady who sat here. Having the land in itself is not the end to the means. It's having the capacity to make use of that land in a way that you generate income. And not only have we supported women to access the basic primary productive assets, we also now seeing women who are having economic mobility to participate in the primary value addition. We have enough businesses, if I just think of Nigeria, for example, where women are moving, they're extracting more value from their sweat. They produce, and they do drying as a service, and value that was being extracted by middlemen, for lack of a better word. And we also seeing women especially the rice value chain that are also shelling the rice, so that by the time they're handing over to the anchor farm that is supposed to do the processing, they've extracted that value for value addition. The other key thing is we're seeing women also participating in distribution of the processed products, or women becoming distributors of input among their communities where the production is happening. And out of this, the day before yesterday, we were discussing the midterm review for our Blue Economy project in Kenya. And it was so powerful when you get real stories where women are saying before they were earning less than $1 per day. Currently, they are moving close to $10 to $15 because of this project. So it just shows the power of private sector-led investment. And the other key thing for me is seeing these ladies who are talking about their own business improvement performance, from a performance perspective. I was just looking at some of the stats in South Sudan. And businesses that were not making profit, they've turned into profitable businesses to the tune of up to 60% in, growth in profitability from a performance perspective. And the effect of this is these businesses now are able to access private sector capital, which is ultimately what we want to see them to do. We managed to leverage up to $13 million in private sector capital among the businesses that we're working on. And we're also seeing a lot of effort, interest in policy that support women, businesses, entrepreneurs to get better. Even among, in Kenya, where we come from, we're seeing counties. Previously, most of the policies focused on human rights, women having a say, but we are seeing them asking, how can we make it better for women to participate as entrepreneurs? And those conversations definitely are going to take us, or to progress the conversation for women as entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. And it really shows the power of the work that you do. When I remember Nancy saying you get free money, but it's not really free money. It's de-risk capital to actually be able to help others with private capital to crowd in, which is what Fred is talking about in terms of the amount that we've been able to leverage in the program. I want to move to Lucania, and Lucania, there is a good initiative that you're at the forefront of, which is the Wi-Fi code, being implemented by the World Bank. Just talk a little bit about the work that you do, and probably what are there financial institutions that have rallied around it, and what are you hoping to achieve?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Susan, and great to be here. And basically, all the stories you guys are saying are what the We Finance Code is trying to do. And just a little bit about FSD Kenya. FSD Kenya has been around for the past 20 years. And our role is to work with the financial sector to make it, to be able to support the women, the youth, the small businesses to have an impact by benefiting from the ecosystem. So the We Finance Code, WEFI code, W for women-led or owned businesses, E for entrepreneurs, finance, F, and then initiative. We Finance Code. So the code is a commitment by all the ecosystem players that serve women, both financial and non-financial service providers. And I love the representation here because all of us should actually be part of that We Finance Code. It brings all of us together, women, men, all of us who want to support women, under three key commitments. Actually, when I first heard about the code, it started, I think, in 2017 by the World Bank. I thought it was something you need to sign. You know, though you have the code of conduct and all, but it's not actually that. It's just committing to serve women. And so the women-led owned businesses. So the three anchors I'm talking about are through data, And so the data to help us just hear all these fantastic stories. You know, I'm happy it's brought it all to life, yeah? And we would never have known, I would not have known most of these things if it wasn't for me meeting Agnes through Nikita, who's walked out, you know? How do we bring all these stories together through data? And data, both stories, and then also the data the stats that we've had. Like, so from the demand side, work FSD does together with Central Bank and CanBS, we know that most women businesses rely on informal financial services to support their businesses. And actually, only 47% of businesses from the data use bank solutions. This is total. And then for women businesses, it's only 27%. That's what the data is saying. But now we need to know more about the supply side. So the We Finance Code is mostly looking at the supply side data. So if banks are saying they are serving women, do we really know how much data is actually going there? So even that gap, we need to get the current gap, because we can't tell. I had a different figure, Agnes had a different figure, World Bank has a different figure. How to use data to be able to understand those things? That's one thing that We Finance Code aims to do. And I'm sure if we all bring our data together, we don't have informal data. We talked about chamas. How are we going to know how the chamas are supporting the women businesses if we don't have an ecosystem that brings this here? So the code aims to bring that data together and then use that data to be able to solve for those gaps. And then the other aspect is on leadership. So if you have Victoria believing in this, and then she takes it back home, let's all support this commitment that ACF has said they're going to do for women. We'll get everybody within the organization believing and making sure that happens. So the leadership bit is that whichever FSP has decided to commit on a non-financial service provider or a regulator, let's have the senior membership agree that this is what we want to do as an institution so that it happens. And then lastly, it's on the monitoring. So within the code, we have all these players. And so far, I think we have over 70, 80 champions, different players, and 35 signatories, and I'm seeing others here, who've signed to commit. So how do we monitor these commitments in an environment that ensures that we are accountable to each other? We are sharing what we're from it. And then the bigger is that the We Finance Code is actually under the, if you guys remember the 20, I think, yeah, so there's an MTP4 plan, that's the next 5 years. And then under it, we have the National Financial Inclusion Strategy. So the We Finance Code actually sits under that strategy. And the aim is to make sure that all those commitments actually contribute to our national goal, bringing all these collaborators together to achieve that goal. And that's what it is. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Look, I know it's early days, but from the members that you've mobilized, what sort of initiatives or areas have they talked about being able to change for them to align to be able to fund the African entrepreneur?
Yeah, thanks. So maybe I should talk about the journey. So the journey started in December with Nikita, then I'm talking about Agidia. So like we know about the We Finance Code, we know it's important. How do we come together and make it happen for Kenya? So we started in December 2024. And then 2025, we now brought all these coalition partners together. And then we said we needed a national champion, somebody who will make sure this happens. So we got the Central Bank agreeing to be the national champion. And they officially came on board in October 2025. And then in December, that's when we launched. The biggest achievement so far is now agreeing that this is what will work for Kenya. And then now what you're doing in the current year, starting actually next week, is coming up with a plan on what you're going to do. And we have agreed we'll start with where we are, yeah? So we are hearing some of the coalition members already trying to change their strategies. We know that there are so many solutions that have been designed for women-led owned businesses, but they're not being done. So the things they're committing to is how do we change that offering to speak to what was it Joy who talked about here? Financial service providers are not seeing the value of serving this segment of women businesses. So it's about crafting, using the data to make sure that whatever things it's about productive assets, there are other issues that have been proven in the market. That it doesn't have to be a business that owns land or certain assets that benefit from the formal service providers. How do we, so we are seeing strategies beginning to change to make sure that they are trying to customize their solutions to those businesses that are not previously being seen because of those barriers. And we're just beginning the journey. I'm sure we'll have so many stories coming out of all this work. Thanks.
Okay, so we'll keep following you. I don't know if the audience has any question. Any that have come on online, you can let me know, but happy to take them. I hope you're writing them down. Fred, I want to come back to you, and largely because I want you to probably talk about the critical aspects of the transformative change in intervening in women economic empowerment. I know we are dealing at different levels of society all the way to the bottom layer. What have you seen work?
Sure, thank you, Susan. I'll touch on maybe 2 or 3 things that we've seen. And I want to start with women's ability to make independent decisions. The most interesting stat that we got from our Kenyan program is among all the women that we are supporting today, either at business level or at community level, 73% of them, they are currently able to make independent decisions. And I don't know who knows the national average, 5%. So moving from 5% to 73% means a lot. And the second thing that I will speak to is about the recognition of women by the communities, their spouses, as agents of economic empowerment in their households. I recall this one woman that we were interacting with in Migori, and she was accompanied by the husband into the meeting. And she gave the story of how, when the opportunity came to partner with Rio Fish, who is one of our investees, the husband was not ready, willing to support her to enter into the business opportunity. But then numbers, results never lie. So he managed to give the support. I don't know whether it was honest at that point. But the minute the woman began contributing income that was going beyond food to now support education of their children, the man became the biggest champion of that woman. And for me, just seeing the gentleman coming to speak boldly why women empowerment is needed was so powerful. And it just goes to say women are nurturers. As men, we take quite some significant risks. Sometimes we get worried, but just seeing that for me was quite powerful. And then maybe the last one that I'll speak to, and just on that, we've managed actually to support up to 1,400 male champions across the countries that we are operating. And then the last bit that I will speak to that, I'll go back to these productive assets. It's an interesting conversation, and I like what you say, but depending on the sectors that you're operating in, my picture goes back to some Fulani women in Nigeria that we are supporting with the program in Nigeria. And you get into a community, and this will resonate with us in Kenya as well, and you find a woman whose life every day they have to wait for the men to tell them what to do. And getting those women, they're in the dairy value chain. And we managed to work with them and give them cooling tanks where they're aggregating milk at village level. and also some of them are distributing inputs. And just getting the community to accept that can be done by a woman who was known to be sitting at home to wait for to be fed. It's big. So it shows when we do the right models, not only do they give these women agency from a decision-making perspective, from an economic empowerment perspective, but it just changes the way society operates and create unity among households. Thank you.
Thanks. And I mean, it really talks to how we need to rally the enabling environment around the women for them to be able to actually go out there and be productive and be able to be successful. I saw you smiling. I don't know if the story resonated when it comes to what you've seen as the change as you've worked with the women in your ecosystem.
It really has. So in Taita Taveta, we have a women's group that has about 23 elderly women. These are women in maybe older than 55 to 70. And one of these women, their daughter-in-law, is the only young one in that group. So she's 28. Her husband works in another town, so he's not there. So she lives with her mother-in-law. But this young girl is so entrepreneurial. So she does their books. This is Clara. She does their books because she's learned and all that. But since she joined the group about a year and a half ago, they had one cow. The old lady had one cow where they did milk just for themselves and maybe a few neighbors. This young woman started doing, taking loans. She opened a cyber, at the front of their home. That cyber grew to, because they have a small farm, to building a small structure, and she got a posho mill machine to be able to grind maize and sell. And then suddenly they realized, oh, wait, we need water because this dairy cow we need to grow it. She took another loan. She, bought 10,000 liter tank, so they have water for their farm, for their cow, and to sell. And then now that we have water, we can do more fodder for the cow, so we can add a cow. So they got another dairy. I mean, this has happened in the last 18 months. Every time you go, there's a new project. And you're like, how are you doing it? This lady's like, this girl is doing all these things. And you can imagine now, this man who is away is her greatest. In fact, he helps her to pay loans quickly so that she can take another one and she can continue to grow this homestead. And that's just one of the stories. These old women, I mean, if we were to show you pictures, there's a lady who is maybe 70, 72 years old, and she has maybe 2 acres or less of property. But she does French beans, she does spinach, she does onions, and then she has pigs and she has a fish pond. Like, at your age, surely, shouldn't you be eating pension and water? She's like, no, I don't want to be disturbing my kids. It cannot be that any time I'm eating sausage, which is what I enjoy, someone has to pay for those things. So it's really encouraging to see how, they have grown and how resilient they are, and how when the men see this, they now jump into this thing to really now push them forward. Yeah.
And it really gives credibility to the statistics that say that women actually put back 90% of their profit into the business, into the family, into the community. You can actually see it in action, so it's not just a statistic. And also, the conversation we were having earlier around the gap that Agnes mentioned, and how that gap can be closed if we supported women. You can just see how that keeps going. I'm going to open up to the audience before I ask the panel to give a parting shot. I see a hand up from Giles.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very interesting conversation that Fred started, and I wish we could have more men really speaking about what they've gained by giving women in their household opportunities. Hopefully, we can do this maybe in the different spaces that are remaining towards this celebration. But my main question is actually to Nikita, and I would just like to find out what are some of the specific commitments that financial institutions are making, because we agree that there's a lot of progress that has been made in terms of justice in financial inclusion. However, this is being facilitated by guarantee funds. What will happen beyond guarantee funds? What are the banks committing to? I think just specific commitments that financial institutions are making, it would be very interesting to know.
Jael, I'm sure you meant Lucania, because Nikita is, I think she's,
Yes.
And I do know we do have some of the Wi-Fi code members here. If any of them wants to speak up, I know we have, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if any of them would like to speak up in terms of what they've been able to do, that would be very good, but I'll give it to you, Lucania.
Yeah, I'm seeing Joyce there. Joyce, do you want to go? and okay, Nikita and I work very closely. So should I give, will you?
Thank you, Joyce, for allowing to be put on the spot.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joyce from Absa Bank, Kenya. We are part of the Wi-Fi code signatories in terms of the commitments. She mentioned in terms of data, so those are the areas we are looking at. In terms, there is a challenge on the data, especially the disaggregation of data. So I think through the Wi-Fi code, we're able to sort that. It also brings us together, especially all the players within the sector. I think Susan mentioned, I think, enabling that space where we are able to support each other, because our main goal is to support our women, whether formal or informal. It's our desire to see the women economically empowered. The other area is also on sharing best practices. I'm able to interact with other members, with other financial institutions or other players in the sector, and we are able to share what we are doing in our every space, and also interchange what we would integrate together, and also what we could improve on our side. So I think it's still ongoing. I know we have some trainings coming up next week, and also some working groups that are working on each and every space, whether it's on the product, whether it's on the data, and also on the progress of the code. And maybe, Lucania, you can give more info.
Yeah, so I'm really hoping that the financial institutions progress to not ask for collateral, to be more accommodating to the women entrepreneurs. You can see they turn out great.
So yeah, that's exactly it. So specifically, like to the guarantee fund and avoiding the market distortion. So we are hoping from these stories, there's a business case for the private sector, banks especially, and the SACCOs, to provide commercial solutions. I know we have Alex here who's working with the refugees, and they've done a lot of experiments. I think worked with different partners who work with refugees to prove a case that there is potential in serving women-led businesses among the refugee camps. And even though probably the interest rates they're getting are equal to what is commercially being given there, we're still not finding like institutions wanting to serve there, despite that case being proven that they're viable. In fact, the number of NPLs, non-performing loans, actually less from those proven cases. So I hope this conversation will help us get there. And one more thing, I can speak about a commitment. We know that financial access is high for Kenyans. About 85% of Kenyans businesses have access to financial services. But when you look at the lives they're trying to change, their own personal lives, they're not able to meet their day-to-day needs. You see people are borrowing before their salaries end, or even though they have money from the business, they still struggle to go get loans from everywhere, and then they are over-indebted. It's not working. They're not able to invest properly despite having a bank account. They're not able to deal with shocks despite having a mobile money account, So how do we try and make that happen through all of us having a conversation that we need to go beyond just accessing these solutions? How do we even have measurement frameworks to measure that whatever solution like Absa comes up with is actually helping that business impact those stories, yeah? How are we gonna measure through data to make sure that that solution has done that? Yeah, thanks.
Morning, everyone. My name is Karnika from Intelligap Avishkar Group. I just wanted to share some reflections on the financial institutions. Been working in this space, I'll say almost like last 15, 20 years, and the proponent of the genderless investing. But what we are seeing is that banks, and sorry to say that, they are not moving. They are just not moving. And I think while there is a lot of support available by the bilaterals, multilaterals, capacity building, training programs, the banks are private sector. They want to make money, and they will make money in the ways that they seem is able to give them the best return on investment with least efforts being put into that. So that is also an underline that they will put in the least efforts. So if the loan officer at the bank is able to provide one loan of $10 million versus 100 loans of $1 million or $100,000, they will be like, will only go to that because their KPIs are not linked to. So while like for early in my career, I was also like, okay, let's support the banks to come up with this training, capacity building, and all this stuff. But we have to work maybe at the macro level, at the policy level, to force the banks in a way that they are lending to a certain percentage of their loan book is actually going to women entrepreneurs or to SMEs, agri-SMEs, all the excluded segments that they just overlook. And it is not that we'll be the first one in Kenya doing this. There are a lot of countries that have actually taken this up to mobilize more capital into the underserved segments. And so like, I think that is also with, if you're working with the World Bank and the others, so they also need to work at the policy level, because today the government is the biggest competitor of the SMEs and the women entrepreneurs in Kenya. Most of the lending is going to the government in the treasury bonds and everything. So the government is like competing with the businesses who are sitting here. That needs to change as well. So I think we need to also get government involved into the conversation. And as I said, sorry to say that, we have to force banks. they are not changing.
Thank you, Kanika. And very valid points. Maybe a reflection on how I switched from banking to here, which is a good thing. Do the hard work, do the real work. Yeah, and I won't put the banks in the spot, but you're absolutely right. And I know we have somebody from Ministry of Mining here, but I will not put them on the spot because it is not, we didn't prepare them, but absolutely right in terms of what we need to do to shift the ecosystem for them to access for more financing. I want to close my panel because of time.
A quick comment, very quick here.
Sure.
Yeah, so CBK is actually leading this, yeah? So already it's anchored on the policy, and then all the signatories are doing this voluntarily so that they're able to prove a case. I'm hoping Joyce will be able to prove a case as to why the whole sector needs to do what you're saying. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, and maybe you can share your parting shot in terms of what more do you need to see so that then this access can be actually accessed.
Yeah, I think exactly, I can just finish with what she said, exactly what she said, so that it's just a way of doing business. We don't have to sort of have these conversations that businesses are risky because there's no information data to prove that they are not, and they can be supported by the financial ecosystem in a very sustainable way. We don't stress the businesses. The business continues striving and meeting the needs of our families and getting Kenyans, I guess, enjoying life. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, you can share it to Fred. Fred, as you give your parting shot, just reflect on some of the ways we are using financial institutions to de-risk
Sure.
the ecosystem.
Thank you for being bold. I would say two things. One, before I speak to the instruments, I think I want to challenge every woman in the room. You know one or two entrepreneurs that are women. can we see how we make their businesses more bankable? And when I mean sometimes bankability, people look at the numbers, but what we've experienced goes beyond numbers. How many businesses are running business models that make sense? How many women have right governance in their businesses? Because they are softer issues, but they are going to unlock what perhaps commercial banks are looking for. And women need to be bold. This lady I'm mentoring today, we met at AFS in Senegal last year. And she's in the agribusiness value chain, and when I came and looked at her business, while she's a darling of us in the development sector, the fundamentals are just wrong. And the fact that she was bold enough, vulnerable, we sit in 2 hours, sometimes she was almost shedding tears. I'm a bit, I bore down facts. But the other day she called me and you say, Fred, you saved my business. Because even what she was doing with one of the development partners, she was now being challenged. So what am I saying? We need to see more women running the right businesses, business models being bankable, and all these, if we can get all of us as champions to support 1 or 2 women businesses, perhaps the commercial banks will change. Susan asked me to comment about what we are doing in financial institutions, and it goes back to the conversation we were just beginning. Yes, we are using the financial institutions to de-risk them to go where ideally they will not go. And we have successful programs in Somalia, some in Kenya. But then at the end of the day, we got to still go ahead and support these businesses beyond the financial. Because yes, they will feel de-risked, take the risk today, but if you don't resolve the softer issues, and that's where technical assistance is extremely important, our program will still come to an end, and that woman business cannot go back to the bank. So de-risking is one of the instruments that we do use through the financial institutions. And critically, we spoke about the catalytic funding and the power it has, right? So whether they are repairable or non-repairable grants. And it's like that kickstart that you've been given. Think business. When I listen to all these women that have spoken here, I will tell you, the businesses that we work with, they work for that grant. It's never free, I can assure you. But the intention is not to make the women to work hard. The intention is to build resilience for their businesses so that at least they can continue getting supported beyond our intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Over to you.
If you allow me, Susan, I'll just react to her reflections. In December last year, I think the AFDB signed a 150 million facility agreement with KCB to fund green energy projects, by women. Now, I was in a forum where there was quite a bit of anger because of the experiences that have been had through development or multilateral financing coming through commercial banks and it not getting to the target, people. And so my challenge, part of my parting shot is to, funds like ACF and others, because it needs to go beyond profit. It needs to go towards impact and sustainability. And I think you're well on your way towards ensuring that that happens from the stories that we've had in this room. So it's that, how are we challenging or advocating for funds to go to institutions that can actually help, including the de-risking. How do we use other institutions other than banks to support these people who have time to listen and to really work through the nuances of the different businesses? Because if you put Joy and Jamila in one room, their problems and their contexts are so different, and no model works for all of them. So that needs to happen, and I think that's an honor to all of us. But also quite closely related to you, Fred, is to challenge women to take up leadership positions. We will collect data to build, interventions that are suitable for women. But until women are in those positions to make decisions, then the same biases that we've seen, the ignorance in women's situations will continue. So So let's take up leadership positions, women. Let's sit in rooms where we can make decisions and influence certain things so that we break barriers and we break those biases that are always going to work against our favor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think for me, as we close this panel, is to really challenge each and every one of us, not just for the organizations that we run or the organizations that we work for, but for us as women, how are you giving? Are you giving time? Are you giving your knowledge? Are you passing on your social capital to just give a leg up to another woman who needs that support? So I really hope as we reflect, and I know Agnes will come in for the closing call to action, that we will be able to commit to what will be different this year as a result of the theme that we have for International Women's Day. So thank you. My name has been Susan Situma, the Director of Programs here at AECF, and happy to have moderated the panel with some really great minds. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before you go, we are taking a group photo. And there's a second one coming from Public Demand Investees, wants to take a photo with Victoria, so that will be the second photo. All right. Thank you very much. Our investees, please take the stage. Victoria, you're welcome to take this group photo with our investees. Thank you so much for traveling all the way to join us for this event. Also, just to mention, the event is live on YouTube. You can catch up with it should any part be of interest to you. Thank you very much. Please take your seats. Sorry. As we close, I know Susan has mentioned this. Our manager for gender, Agnes, is just taking through some sticky notes. What is that one thing you wish to commit to? I'll write it down on that sticky note at your level, not what the government will do or other people. What do you commit to do as a result of these conversations? Once you write your commitment, just place it at the back, and we are going to be taking some clips of it, so the sticky notes are going around. We're coming to the end of the session, and I wish to invite one of our partners, Linda, representing, who works with GAC, to say one or two words in a minute, and then we'll be dissolving the congregation. So you are welcome, Linda. A hand. Okay, it's fine.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, the energy levels are already going down. It's okay. My name is Linda Kagota, Global Affairs Canada. I'm happy to be here. Apologies, I came in a little late. There's a bit of craziness happening at the office. We're expecting a very high-level visit, so but I'm happy I made it, even if it's towards the end. That was a wonderful panel. I've heard quite a bit from Michelle and Lucania. You know, Fred, I've spoken to him a lot, so I know we're the same, but I'd like to pick up some conversations with the two ladies. That was a very interesting input. I don't have much to say, apart from the fact that I bring greetings from the High Commission. Our head of cooperation, Sophie Price, would have loved to be here, but she's leading the delegation for the minister's visit. Greetings also from His Excellency Joshua Taba. I had the pleasure of taking him on his first Lake Region visit this week. We covered only 3 counties. We had a very short time, so we started in Kisumu, We went on to Siaya County and finished with Homa Bay County yesterday. And I think the running theme for all the 3 counties when we met with the senior officials at governor's office, economic empowerment for women is key in all the Lake Region counties, and I don't need to belabor that point. But then there's also the bulging youth population and the huge potential that they have and that's still being stifled, and how can we support as development partners to get this youth into productive jobs, not just jobs, but productive jobs. So we came back to Nairobi with a lot of food for thought, and we are also, like many other development partners, we are looking at how we're engaging on the continent. I'll speak for the continent, I can't speak for the globe. Canada is looking at how we're engaging on the continent, and we are pivoting more towards not just the traditional or conventional development aid, kind of thinking. We are partnering, and in partnerships, you give and I give. So Canada is thinking more about trade diversification, and we are pivoting towards more of development plus trade. It's not just the conventional development assistance that we've been doing. So some partners like ACF, we have MEDA, and other partners who have already, they get it when it comes to business solutions, to creating jobs, to eradicating poverty. So these are the kind of partnerships that we'll be looking into. I think it's an interesting time that we are at, because everybody knows what their country needs in terms of development, but people are so stuck in the conventional way of doing development that we're not moving as fast as we should. So the challenge is on all of us in this room, in whatever spaces that we are meeting, more so in this month of March where we're celebrating women. Let's all convene in those spaces where we can sit together and come up with tangible solutions. Come to Canada and say, hey, I hear you're no longer doing chicken, giving women chicken in the villages, that's not development anymore. Development is the lady who talked about mining. Those industries that have the capability and the ability to change lives today, not another. We don't have to wait for another 40 years doing development. We need to change and do development better. So thank you so much. I'm here for a few more minutes, and we can talk after you close the program. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Linda. One more announcement, actually maybe 1.5. So Joy Ladu came with some products all the way from South Sudan. Just right here, please interact with the products, and I hope that you can carry for yourself and a friend. We have a few spreads, coffee, tea, juices. Please, let's utilize them even as we network. If you have not registered, please see Angie. Angie is seated right there, so we need to keep a record of the people we have had today. This is so huge. All right, so I think I wish to bring this congregation to a close. Thank you so much for being part of this. Excited to have you. Please follow us on social media pages at the ACF, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Instagram. We are going to be posting a lot of this information there. We'll also be having photos and the videos as well, and look forward to continuing with this conversation. So thank you very much as I hand it over to
Agnes. Thank you. The name was escaping you there for a minute. Yeah. The sticky notes I've just handed to you are for all of us to write what we want. This year's theme, Give to Gain. What do we want to give to women this year? At an institutional level, at an individual level, at a network level. And then once we've written them, let's just stick them at the back there. And ACF is going to take very lovely pictures of that we will post online to remind us of those commitments that will, yes, accountability, that will lead us for the rest of the year on the change that we want to make to women. Thank you.
All right, enjoy your coffee and network.